You know what's weird about anime fans? We are simultaneously the most optimistic and pessimistic people on the planet. The moment we hear about one of our favorite manga being adapted into an anime, we start immediately thinking about all the crazy fight scenes that are going to be so beautifully animated by our favorite studios. But the second we see that first trailer, the doom posting begins. The animation looks mid. They picked the wrong studio. Oh, they're gonna butcher it. And look, I'm not judging. I'm definitely guilty of this. But recently, I've been hearing a lot about Sakamoto Days. In fact, people around me are actually kind of raving about it. And I've actually known about this series for a long time. I see it every time I log into the Shonen Jump app. It's been running for a while and is clearly very successful. That being said, when the anime was announced, the comment section went hard. There's actually a pretty substantial Reddit post from a few months back which breaks down exactly how negative the comments were from the Japanese trailers. So the anime was picked up by TMS Entertainment, which has done some good stuff. It's a really old studio that dates way back into the 60s. But that being said, TMS Entertainment is not known for sakuga-filled goodness like Studio Mappa or UFO Table. Like, I was reading comments where people were hoping that Studio Bones was going to handle this anime. You understand the difference between those two? Well, if you don't, it's needless to say that expectations were very high for Sakamoto Days. And this is understandable. The manga is very unique and would need a lot of special attention to accurately portray it in a new medium. And a highlight of that uniqueness is the way that the fight scenes have been illustrated. You would definitely want an experienced studio handling this project. And it's not something you would expect from the studio that did the Fruits Basket remake, you know what I'm saying? Needless to say, manga readers were ready to riot. So what I did is I set out and I read a bunch of the manga, I watched everything that the anime had to give so far, and we together are going to find out just how substantial this weeb drama is right now. This is Sakamoto Days. Let's pop off. Hey everybody, Mike here. It's February, which means exactly three things. It's cold, I'm getting fat and depressed. Most of you know I'm a New England guy, which means that half of the year we're stuck indoors. But thanks to our returning sponsor, Fabletics, I've gotten back on the horse. We've partnered with Fabletics before and it worked out super well. This is a company and a product that we absolutely believe in. I love their stuff. Fabletics is best known for being athletic wear, but it's also got form and function. I know a lot of nurses who will die by Fabletics, but they also provide things from casual joggers that are incredibly comfortable. I highly recommend them, to office appropriate attire that you can literally sit and do a full lotus in. These are absolutely great for yoga, which is my go-to for staying in shape. So we already know what they've done for me. They're supporting me during a very hectic time in my life in which I am desperately clinging on to every penny that I can possibly get. They've fitted me with some incredibly comfortable clothes that I literally wear around the house every day. My wife is going to murder me. But what are they doing for you? Well, if you follow our link in the description or in the pinned comment to Fabletics and sign up as a VIP, you get 80% off the entire site as an intro offer. As a member, you can get up to 50% off daily, and every month you get a credit for a two-piece outfit or any product up to $100. You get monthly drops, early access to styles, VIP-only sales, and you get the Fit app for free. Look, you know how we do here at Bonsai Pop. We do not take sponsorships unless we believe in the product. And we've had people come to us since the last time we did it who took advantage of this offer, signing up for VIP to get that 80% off, and some people saved up to like $400, which means they got a bunch of clothes for free, and these are high quality products. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that, you know, you would go to a high-end sports store to get. So do us a favor, but more importantly, do yourself a favor and use our link in the description or the pinned comment. Go over to Fabletics, sign up for that VIP program, and get 80% off the entire site. Thank you for sponsoring us again, Fabletics, and thank you guys for taking this into consideration. Let's get on with the show. So first of all, I'd like to point out, if you're worried about spoilers, don't be. This isn't a series that can really be spoiled so far. It's a comedy. It runs a lot more like Ranma Half. Second, because I knew of this controversy, I started with the manga and then I checked out the anime afterwards. And with that said, Let's just get into it. So imagine John Wick decided to retire, got married, had a kid, and started running a convenience store. Oh, and he gained about 100 pounds of pure dad bod. That is Taro Sakamoto, once the world's greatest assassin. Now he's more concerned with keeping his store's shelves stocked and making sure his daughter gets to school on time. And I'm not just throwing that John Wick comparison around loosely, the parallels are actually pretty wild. Both were the best assassins in their respective countries, both retired for about 5 years, and both have mysterious organizations trying to drag them back in. While Wick has The Table, which we're 4 movies in and still doesn't make much sense, Sakamoto's got The Order, this mythical organization that no one even knows if it's real or not. It really does feel like an alternate reality Japanese-based Wick storyline, and I'm actually a pretty big fan of that. Also, no tragic dog trauma is a plus. I like a pathologically quiet, flubbery ex-assassin neighborhood jack of all trades who's far more afraid to make his wife upset than he is to fight a dozen gunslingers with just a box cutter. I'm sure those other guys out there that are married know what I'm talking about, right? You know, wives. But let's be honest, most retired badass stories kind of follow the same premise, right? Something threatens the protagonist's peaceful life, forcing them to go back to their old ways, usually with a montage of them getting back in shape first. But Sakamoto? No, he is perfectly content with his current flabby self, thank you very much. He's not trying to recapture his glory days or prove he's still got it. He genuinely loves his new life, his family, and yes, even his convenience store. The action comes to him not because he's seeking it out, but because the underworld just won't let him be. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Assassins from all across the country start showing up to kill Sakamoto thanks to a tidy little 1 billion yen bounty on his head. And this is where the Robin to the Batman Shin enters the picture, a mind-reading former assassin who eventually becomes Sakamoto's part-timer. Imagine having the ability to read minds and still being completely unable to figure out how your boss can move like that while he looks like he just finished 2 full instant ramens with enough sodium to knock out an army of snails, or your grandpa. Their dynamic is pure gold. It's both master and apprentice while also giving a bit of a celebrity and fanboy. Shin looks at Sakamoto a lot like Genos views Saitama in One Punch Man, constantly in awe of abilities he can't quite comprehend. Then there's Liu Xiaotang, the only daughter of a Chinese triad group that got wiped out by assassins. Sakamoto and Shin help her out of a pickle, and she ends up joining their little family of convenience store badasses. Now in the anime, we're only 6 episodes in, we haven't got a lot of Liu yet, but she is a big character in the manga. She's a lot of fun, and she just gets more fun as time goes on. She also gets funnier as the series continues as well. I think people are really gonna like her. But the real MVP is Aoi Sakamoto, Taro's wife. In most retired badass stories, the wife either doesn't know about the protagonist's past or becomes a victim to motivate the hero, or is like a spy too, and they were like working against each other. I don't know, you've seen that movie. Not Aoi. She knows exactly who and what Sakamoto was, and more importantly, she knows exactly who he is now. She's not some damsel in distress, she's the reason Sakamoto retired in the first place, and she is scarier to him than any assassin could ever be, while remaining supportive and self-aware. Unfortunately, she hasn't got a ton of time in the anime yet, but I absolutely love that she isn't upset or freaked out at all whenever she finds out an assassin is trying to kill Sakamoto. She not only has absolute faith in her husband, she believes he will keep her and their kids safe, all while following the family rules. The Sakamoto family rules are ironclad, and they follow said good book to the T or else. And that means on days they have an argument, they'll always have a special dinner that night, and no lying. But it also means no killing. That's a big rule. And if Sakamoto kills anyone, Aoi will divorce him immediately. So every fight has Sakamoto improving ways to injure or debilitate his assailants without hitting their core vitals. I mean, check it out. He shoots a bullet out of the air with a cough drop in episode 1. You get the idea. And that creativity to the fights is really what people were worried about with this show being given to TMS Entertainment. You see, Sakamoto Days is all about juxtaposition. The series constantly flits back and forth between this comedic, cartoony, everyday life, and then instantly goes into incredibly serious, dangerous moments. The manga set the ground for this through its illustrative style of goofy, almost demorphed characters when it's the day-to-day stuff, and then switching to something more in line with like Jujutsu Kaisen when shit hits the fan. It's still a shonen battle manga at the end of the day, despite defying most of the tropes. However, both ends of the illustration are highly stylized, moving from something almost reminiscent of an adachi manga to something better resembling peak Bleach. This is also a cult series which has managed to stay alive in the pages of Jump next to My Hero and other contemporaries for well over 100 chapters. Like I said before, I always saw this on the front page when I logged into Shonen Jump, I just never gave it the time of day. Of course, that was until recently. So in its fight to survive Jump, what we ended up with was a hardcore fan base who probably never thought Sakamoto Days was going to get animated in the first place. So when the anime was announced, expectations were going to be astronomically high from the people who cared, no matter what. And when said cult fan base finds out that it's going to be animated by TMS Studios, they're 100% bound to revolt. But is the anime really that bad? People seem to be most concerned about the fight scenes right off the bat, and they're definitely not trying to be the most technically impressive sequences you've ever seen. Instead, they lean into the absurdity of watching a guy who looks like he should be winded walking upstairs absolutely demolishing professional killers with the speed and precision of a roided up Batman. And even if it's not the most technically impressive animation you'll see this season, the fights are clear, well choreographed, and they maintain the manga's sense of timing and humor. That said, they are missing a certain gravity the manga somehow manages to create. It's almost too goofy in the anime and doesn't really capture how deadly Sakamoto is under the trunk or how deadly the situations he ends up in are. Now there is definite effort, you can see the studio trying, but by episode 4 you can kind of get the picture if you're a manga reader. The coloring and shading were done really well. It's got a nice pastel color palette with almost a crayon-esque fill texture to it, which you can tell was chosen to give it that cartoony feel you get during downtime in the manga. However, this doesn't change during the fight scenes, which removes that necessary juxtaposition I mentioned earlier. Sakamoto lives in two worlds that are polar opposites. Juxtaposition. This is expressed visually in the manga, but anime adds depth to a production which needs to be filled equally on both ends. Not changing the color palette, fill texture, or adding in the extra facial details during what are much sharper and better defined battle sections in the manga leaves the anime feeling a little flat. Speaking of a little flat, the studio obviously concentrated most of their efforts on Sakamoto himself. He's the most accurately portrayed character in the anime, but they roughed up the rest of the characters pretty bad. They missed the mark on the almost 1950s level of facial design mangaka Yuto Suzuki utilizes to make Sakamoto's daily life feel as quaint as it does. The animators choosing not to replicate that unfortunately removes a lot of personality from the secondary characters like Aoi and Sakamoto's daughter, while ultimately removing that key juxtaposition this series requires to maintain authenticity to its source. And they also just straight up skip stuff in the anime, which is never fun. But if you haven't noticed yet, this is all incredibly nitpicky stuff coming from a guy who professionally analyzes anime and manga. Like I said way back at the beginning, people around me have been raving about this anime. Not everyone is going to be a Sakamoto Days cultist, and even less people are going to be completely unable to enjoy anything like I am, because after a long time of doing this, you can't help but see every single flaw in everything ever. But at the end of the day, what makes Sakamoto Days work, whether it's the anime or the manga, is the heart of the story. At its core, this is a series about a man who chose happiness over success, family over fortune, and convenience store management over killing. He chose peace, and when he fights, he's fighting for that slice of peace he found in the woman he loves and the life he lives with her. Every single time Sakamoto has to deal with his past, it's not with regret or nostalgia, it's with the mild annoyance of someone who really just wants to get back to restocking the ice cream freezer. And I think the reason that the anime is working right now and hitting people so hard is because more than ever, I think the majority of us just want to have some semblance of a peaceful existence. The series nails this balance between the mundane and the extreme. One minute, Sakamoto's helping a customer find the right flavor of chips, the next he's using those same chips as improvised weapons against assassins. But through it all, he maintains the same chill demeanor of a very quiet dad. It's this commitment to the bit which elevates the whole series, but knowing he's going back to his family and chill neighborhood life allows the audience to simply enjoy watching something consistent. You kinda know that Sakamoto's gonna come out on top in the end. And I think right now there's something genuinely comforting and refreshing about a show that doesn't really take itself too seriously. And even given that, it still delivers genuine stakes in character development. I mean, this is a story about a guy who had everything society tells us we want, right? He's the best in his field, probably made bank, had mad respect, power, all that jazz, and he gave it up for what most people would consider a completely ordinary life. Again, this juxtaposition between what he had and what he has Kinda shows that if you're really going to get to the top of the top, you either gotta kill or be killed, especially in this economy. But the genius of Sakamoto Days is that it's never framed as if Sakamoto lost something. His lifestyle is not a downgrade or a settlement. In most stories, the retired badass is shown to be somehow lesser than they used to be, like they're just waiting for an excuse to return to their true self. But Sakamoto's true self is the guy who gets excited about new snack shipments and makes sure his daughter's lunch is packed properly. Sure, he may reflexively think about murdering everyone he comes in contact with, but who doesn't nowadays? This absolute unit of a man who stress eats when his wife is mad at him, that's the real deal. And it's also kind of a middle finger to every story that tells us we need to be the best and to be special and be extraordinary. And you might as well give up on that anyway, there's no money left for you to get rich on. But if you look at it a certain way, Sakamoto had it all, and he consciously chose to be ordinary instead. Not because he couldn't hack it anymore, not because he was forced to, but because he found something better. Actual happiness. A partner, a small business, a kid, which I guess some people are into. He's got a quiet life where his human needs are met and a comfortable and safe way of living when he's not targeted for being murdered. He's kind of like you, but you know, instead of assassins, you get the IRS. And just in case you get confused, the show constantly reinforces this by having him temporarily return to his peak assassin form during serious fights, only to happily go back to his chubby self afterward. He could be that guy again if he wanted to, he just doesn't care to. But yeah, when you put it all together, the anime is weaker than the manga. Surprise! This must be a first. Thankfully, Sakamoto Days, from what I've intaken so far, was never trying to really be the next big battle shonen. It's a comedy first and an action series second, all bundled up into a nice little story about finding happiness in the ordinary. Is the anime everything everybody wanted? No. Could the fights be more dynamic? Sure. Would I have loved to see what Studio Bones would have done with this story? Abso-fucking-lutely. But 6 episodes in, Sakamoto Days is doing just fine on Netflix. Sometimes all you need is a dad-bod ex-assassin, his mind-reading employee, and a convenience store full of potential improvised weapons to get an anime-only audience to love you. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who still hate the adaptation or think it's just mid, but listen, this season is looking pretty damn dry, and this show is a lot of fun. Not every adaptation is going to be a visual spectacle. Sakamoto Days got the short stick. What are you gonna do? But sometimes, just like Sakamoto himself, it's okay to prioritize heart over flash, substance over style, and if that means watching a chunky convenience store owner suplex assassins while worrying about whether or not his family's pork buns are safe, I'm gonna be here for it, even if it's a little flat visually. You know what? I'm gonna suggest something that might be a little bit controversial. Do what you want. If you go into this show fresh without the manga's gorgeous art and dynamic fight scenes living rent-free in your head, you're probably gonna have a good time. You'll probably have a good time the other way around too. Though I've intaken a lot of Sakamoto Days, I wouldn't consider myself an expert on this series, but if you like the anime, you should hop into the manga afterwards and enjoy everything it has to offer anyway. I mean, that's what anime really is. It's a commercial trying to get you to read. You should try it out. You'll probably never go back. So yeah, the anime may not be everything that everybody hoped it was, but we all can say that at least it's not another isekai. Thanks everybody for watching. This is Mike. This is a crazy month that we're having. I am moving. Hopefully, I'm in the process of buying my very own first house. This has been a thing that we've been planning for years. We've been saving and saving and saving. So thanks everybody so much for supporting us. You know, it's not a big house, but it will be mine. And yeah, like I said, I just appreciate you. Thank you to Fabletics for sponsoring us. And if you want to help this channel continue and make sure that I can make my mortgage payments, please check out our Patreon and support our sponsors. This has been Bonsai Pop. I'm Mike. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.